Welcome to the Drop the Needle podcast, your backstage pass to the corporate jungle. I'm your host, Jim Alstott, and here, industry titans step up to the mic, sharing their epic journeys. We're hitting the high notes and the low notes of their careers, creating a symphony of success. This isn't just another interview show, it's where truth bombs are dropped and secrets are revealed. So grab your conductor's baton because who knows, this just might help you compose the next huge hit of your career. Are you ready? Let's go.
That's right.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Drop the Needle podcast. I'm your host, Jim Alstott, and I'm so happy you all decided to join us. Thank you again for joining us for part 2 of the Money and Spirituality series. We're fortunate enough to have as our guest again today a person who blends spirituality and savings, best-selling author, podcast host, blogger, and of course, the Energizer Bunny of abundance, Miss Julie Marie Murphy. Welcome, Julie.
Oh, thanks so much for having me again, Jim. I appreciate it.
Thank you for making the time. And this is something that's hits kind of close to home for me, and not even kind of close to home for me. It is something that a lot of us are staring down the barrel of, and it's retirement and the fear of that. But we're gonna talk about that in today's show, and we're going to talk about a couple of other things. And I think where I want to start this is, if you're good with it, we touched on the NDE, the near-death experience that turns on the gifts. And in my typical ADHD fashion, I went, oh, yeah, cool, on to the next. But I want to know about that. Can you tell us about the experience again? And then I want to know about the gifts that you were left with.
Sure. So it was giving birth to baby number 4. I had gotten some intuitive hits that I was to use the very strong mind that I have during this childbirthing process, not knowing exactly what was going to occur. And so just like the other 3 babies, mom always goes late, and I was 2.5 weeks late, got induced, and right when the contractions started to get intense, all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I don't like this. She hits the red button. Doctors all swarming, get into the OR. And all I felt like was like Jesus on the cross, because they stick your arms straight out so they can get access to all your veins, right?
Yes.
And they're trying to talk to me, and I couldn't respond. Yet I could hear them. I could totally hear them, but I could not respond. And then all of a sudden they just start rushing. And all of a sudden then I wind up over my body, being able to see down. But then it reminded me of the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze. And I see this light, this really bright light. And I'm like between worlds. And I was just kind of like, but yet in my body, I literally wasn't even there. I just wasn't even there. And I could somewhat hear my doctor saying my name. And then all of a sudden he pulls down the blue, curtain, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
And he's like, Julie! And he just screams. And it was like, and I went right back into my body. And then all of a sudden it was like, I was just like, like, and then I took a breath. And then they're like, here's your son. And I was like, at this point I was processing what they were saying, but still couldn't plug in. And then all of a sudden it was almost as if you know how you're kind of hazy sometimes when you're hungover and somebody tries to talk to you and you're like, huh?
No, don't know what you're talking about.
Well, picture that without the pain of the hangover. But so I was in there, and then all of a sudden, one of the gifts that came out of that is that I stopped trying to control everything. Like when I gave birth to the other babies, it was like I was worried about them nursing, and could I figure that out? And am I not enough
Right.
button being pressed? Am I going to produce enough milk for them? Am I going to
Yeah.
be able to sustain everything? And in that piece, I remember like, because I was just totally like let go of control, like the baby just latched right on and was feeding. And I was kind of like going, whoa, this is interesting. Like it was just all happening, but yet I wasn't doing anything. Like it was just flowing. And that's what I realized, like, oh, I'm being shown like exactly how to just go with the flow. And it all just kind of happens when you're not coming from fear or anxiety or trying to push and make things happen. It just like flowed and all happened. And then all of a sudden I could not in any way, shape, or form hold anything for anybody else that wasn't mine to hold. Meaning my patterning was I was a people pleaser and I was a fix-it person. So everybody came to me. Like, that's why I was a financial planner. I could fix people's stuff. And it's not that I don't help people on their journey, but the difference today is that they have to have skin in the game. So today, I'm not the only one doing all the work and going, what do you mean? Like, I did the best I could and I'm showing up for you. Why are you not? So human beings try to control their stress by 5 things. They try to people please, fix it, control others, and train others to do it their way, or they disassociate. And I would say I probably did all of those at some juncture. I think every human does, but I couldn't respond to the world around me by that anymore. Like, so that's Julie, the personality from growing up, being sexually molested by a Catholic priest when I was 5 years old, and then trying to do all my pattern responses. So my reactivity to the world around me. The gift was I couldn't do that anymore. Now, what was interesting, my understanding and all the work that I've done since then is that for me to do the work that I was meant to do in the world, I had to stop plugging into the world based on my trauma from my childhood, and I had to start doing it in alignment with my soul. And so what happened in that near-death experience is that I could no longer do the patterning from my trauma, from my childhood.
Okay.
I now could only do it from the place of my soul. And if it didn't match, but that created all this turmoil in my life, right? Because everybody still wanted me to fix it for them. They still wanted me.
Right.
So what happened over the next 2 years is that all my employees, except for 2, left my company, or I decided to let them go. I didn't hang out with the same friends any longer because I was no longer a people shrink, right? Like, because I was the fix-it person, and I was just the person that everybody dumped their stuff on, and I was like, well, here's how I would do it, blah, 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 because I'm a problem solver, right? Didn't realize I was going to be getting rid of my marriage at that time, but that was part of the process because I was done fixing it for somebody else, and so the greatest gift was that I came out of that more aligned with self. And I believe all of our jobs is only to become exactly who you were meant to be in this world with your unique gifts. And the problem is we all negotiate ourselves away along the way because we're trying to show up for other people. I was explaining this to my daughter the other day. I'm like, honey, I said, you get frustrated when you actually are doing things for other people and you're trying to make them happy, but you really can't make other people happy because they have to make themselves happy. And you're going to spend a lifetime trying to people please people to make them happy. And the only person you need to make happy is yourself, sweetie. Because in that, you then are standing in your power and you're living your life the way you want to live it, not living it the way other people want you to show up and live it. And I know for a fact that, she was, some of her patterning was already wired in from mom being a people pleaser. And that doesn't change overnight, right? So my cellular structure my cells still wanted to people please. Like when I wouldn't go people please, I realized I would like duck and cover for the reaction of other people.
Really?
And yeah, particularly because I was dealing with a narcissist who, you know, if you do any work, one of the best psychologists on narcissism is Ross Rosenberg. He is amazing. Another person I actually met through Jennifer Weigel.
Oh, wow.
He
Okay.
calls it the narcissist storm. And the reason you keep people pleasing a narcissist because you're waiting for the storm to come. Like you're like, ah.
And
because when
bracing
you
for it, right?
Right. And so when that comes at you, it's like a bull in a china shop. But the thing is that's how unregulated they are within themselves and has nothing to do with you. Right. And so
Yeah.
I started holding those boundaries, and that's why eventually I was just like,
Got it.
everything had to shift and end.
So intuition, you're saying that your intuitive senses were heightened after that?
Way heightened. I would get these hits that I'm just like,
What does that feel like when you say somebody says that to me, and I'm wondering what that means or feels like? Can you feel it, or do you hear it? Or...
yeah. So it comes into your mind, but then you feel it in your body. You sense it in your body. Like,
gotcha.
You get a hit, and then your body relaxes, going, "Oh, that's the way it comes in my package." Like everybody's package could be different, but like something will pop into my head, and then if it relaxes my body, I know I'm supposed to step into it.
Gotcha.
And I'm supposed to take that step. And, you know, one of my friends always says, Julie, the biggest gift you gave me in my divorce process was the gift of courage. And I'm going, I don't even think of it as courage as the fact, as much as I find it as I just get the hit, and I trust it enough these days now because of that near-death experience. And I'm going, oh, got it. Okay, step in. And then I just move forward because when you start to build your trust of the universe, God in the universe, whatever your deity is, when you build that trust muscle and your brain's like going, but what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And you just keep, you no matter what, you still step into it. That's building your trust that you're going to always be okay. Everything's always going to show up for you, and you're always supported. And the problem is we go to worry and to fear and anxiety, and
right.
And then you're completely out of your trust muscle. And I have built that muscle so much going, okay, like even me moving from the place that I lived for the last 24 years, I'm like, all I kept hearing over and over again was, you got to take this one last really big jump one more time, and all that you've ever desired is going to fall into alignment. Like the problem is you don't know how it's going to fall into alignment.
Right, exactly.
And that's the part that gets you nutted up. But I've learned so I got the hit, and then I'm here now in this new life for the last month. And when things would get to a pinnacle going, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm going, all right, this one's yours. Like, I don't know what to do on this one. And I turn it over. My mom was really great at that, though. She had 12 kids. That's not logical.
Right.
And she would turn it over. She's like, well, Julie, you just got to turn it over. And I'm like, okay, Mom, like, whatever.
Whatever you say. Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
Like I was like, but I watched her do that. And I'm going, and I have a really strong, bright mind. And that has not served me well on my spiritual path whatsoever. Because you have to start with your heart, which is the alignment with your soul, and then you have to add the smarts. It's a different way of doing it. Instead of thinking your way to your solution all the time, it's about following your knowing, following your gut, and then add your smarts to do it in an effective manner.
So with that, and I'm glad you said that. When you talk about those things, and I'm gonna refer back to your book, The Emotion Behind Money.
Mm-hmm.
You refer to the first, is it the first 3 or first 4 chakras that set everything?
Yeah.
Like that's your anchor and your foundation. So is that a first things first type of situation? You know what I mean? You got to get that set before you can come up to those intuitive things, or does it matter?
Well, you got to remember, so the households and the communities we grew up in create your first chakra. So that's where a lot of your gunk is and a lot of your
Right.
DNA stuff, where
Yep.
right? Second chakra, that's all about creativity, new beginnings. That's the birthing process, right?
Mm-hmm.
Third chakra, which I think is the one that where the majority of people are blocked today, because that's where you
Solar
really start to
plexus.
open up. Yeah, that's your empowerment. Many of us are not living from a place of empowerment. We're like victim to the system, victim to this, victim to that. And that's why there's all this fear,
Well,
because we're
hell
not
yeah.
living empowered lives.
Well, that's a habit too. You talk about
It's
that.
all habits.
Yeah. Holy cow. The empower. Yeah, I agree 100%. And well, I'm sure your spiritual muscles are much further developed than mine. So that's where there's a stumbling block for me on a regular basis too, is that solar plexus area, empowerment, you know, world be damned. This is what I'm doing. You know, I don't care what you say. This is what I say. And this is what I feel. And that's tough, man. That's tough.
Right. But here's the thing. When you do that, you're then showing others how to align with, because really your job is to align with yourself. And you can't do that if you're not empowered, right? You can't do that if financially you're sitting with a bunch of debt, because that's not, that's not, you're not free. You're in financial jail, and you can't be nimble in the present moment to make those decisions to get you to the next place in your own life that you want to be, if you're sitting in that place of laden based on all your past choices. Let alone people are like, well, then how do I retire? You know, I was on Capitol Hill years ago, and I had all these congressmen and women in front of me, and they said, one of the southern states, one of the congressmen said, how do we get Americans to save more money for retirement? And, you know, there were 7 of us on the panel from 7 different financial firms, and they all gave the coined answers. You know, well, this is what you got to do on your 401k, and this is what you got to do in your household, and do your budget, and blah, blah. And I said, when they got to me, I go, you're asking the wrong question. And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, how in the heck can people plan for retirement when they can barely live in the present moment because they're paying so much for their past choices?
Holy shit.
Because you're not able to live in the now because you're always chasing your tail, because you got a car payment, student loan payment, a house payment, credit card payments, you name it, right? Like, you're always chasing your tail. So
oh man.
So you have to, we have to put in my opinion, we have to put regulations on these banks of not, like, sure, that's okay for you to make money, but why do you have to rate people at 30%?
Right.
Right. I get it. It's a business deal, but that, we have a severe lack of education on money in this country.
Agreed.
And it is not being taught in the schools. And then you're going to turn around and charge them 30% because they screwed up and made a mistake while they're learning. Like, okay, shame on you if you keep doing it and you keep trying to screw the system. Like, that's your problem. Then go ahead and charge 30%. But giving students credit cards at 30%, like, that's just like screwing people over right from the get-go. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed from that perspective. But that's why we're asking the wrong question. And it was so funny because this guy says, he goes, well, you must be from the Midwest because you're a straight talker. And I was like going, why are we all not straight talking to actually get this solved so that more Americans can actually, because people don't want to not retire. People want the opportunity. And, you know, individuals are also the issue in the fact that we want instant gratification because we're trying to satisfy our emotions, and we do that through overspending. Just like people do with their weight, and they overeat. We're
Sure.
overeating and overspending in this country big time. And we have to decide that we want a healthier life. But until you make that decision,
Doesn't matter.
don't matter at all. No one can do anything to help you. And it's not somebody else's problem. It's your problem if it's your weight and your fiscal dysfunction.
Correct. And I'm so glad you transitioned there, because I wanted to make sure that we hit on this time is the whole accumulation of wealth or for retirement in this particular instance. So I want to go back to one of the things that you said with all of this debt, and how can people they're chasing their tail on things that they've already purchased, or living in the past.
Right.
They can't get present. So with that, let's say me, small business owner wanting to get started, and you say, okay, well, let's take a look at things. And is that where we start? Is that how everything starts?
So everything starts with looking at where your cash flows are. So let's talk about, how do you move your cash flows to a place of empowerment? So how you move that to a place of empowerment is you actually take the word budget completely out of your vocabulary. And people will say, well, you got to keep track. I don't disagree with you. You have to keep track. But what I'm saying is, at an emotional level, Jim, how do you feel when I tell you have to go on a budget?
Like it's going on a diet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And does that feel good and expansive, or does it feel like scarcity and contraction?
Oh, definitely contraction.
Right. So first and foremost, we have to stop doing the things that make us feel like we're contracting, because your nervous system is your chakra system, which leads to your pineal gland, which is your lighthouse that blinks a light. And if you're contracting and your light is dim, you can't manifest the life you want to have. End of story. You just can't. So I want you to decide and choose, how do you want your cash to flow? And people go, huh? I'm like going, you have this income coming in, you have these expenses going out.
Mm-hmm.
If your income is less than your expenses going out, well, then you're choosing to suffer every single month.
Right. Yep.
You're choosing that. People have to understand that they choose that. And you have to choose not to. No different than sticking Oreo cookies in your mouth if you're 100 pounds overweight. Same thing. It's a choice. But when did we feel that we didn't have a choice? So we have to sit there and go, okay, well, these are the things that I want. And I would say most people today, when most people sit down with me, their income almost matches exactly what their expenses are.
Really?
So I have, almost. Why? Because you get a pay raise, you figure out how to spend it.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Right? Because you dream of these bigger things. And then as the income goes, you're like, oh, that's what I'm doing with it. So what I always say is, I'm not telling you have to change the way that you have to live. Because that also, if I tell you, someone comes to me, I've had people walk in my office going, you have to tell my wife to stop buying designer blue jeans. I'm not here to tell your wife to buy jeans or not buy jeans. Right. The question is what are you trying to achieve, and do those jeans get you to where you want to be? No, she just was wanting to show that she still had power and control, even though she was not the one that made the big bucks in the household, right? So she was feeling not enough, and it was acting out in her spending of designer jeans. So what I always say is, live the way you're living. Let's not judge it. Let's just have it be what it is. Then I want you to say, you got a pay raise. You got a tax return. You got a bonus. You got an inheritance. Those are all things what I call newfound money. It's new to your household, right? It could be you just paid off your car. That's new money to your household, right?
Right.
Take that new cash flow or open amount of money, and I've created a system where I know it will not hijack your nervous system to cause you to contract. And what that is when you get that newfound money, you take a third, a third, a third. And I talk about this in my book, Awaken Your Wealth, because this is what I work with clients, and I've done it for 29 years now. You take a third of it and you pay off more to your highest interest rate debt.
Okay.
You take the other third and you have it be spending in the present moment for the things that you want here and now. But it needs to be intentional. And what do I mean by that? It means intentional spending. Let's just say you really desire to go on more vacations. Because as we age and we work more, we kind of want more experiences than things, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say it's vacations. Great. So let's just say your third of newfound money is $200 more per month. Great. You have $200 a month go in a completely separate savings account that says vacation fund, because there's a lot of online savings accounts that you can do that.
Right.
And then that's intentional spending and rewarding, and it's doing exactly how you want to live, right? And you have that go in that savings account every single month. So now you're going to have $2,400 more a year to then spend on vacations. So it's accomplishing something you want to accomplish. And then the other is putting towards your financial plan. And I always say that the one that's for your financial plan and building your wealth, you split that down into another third, depending on where your money's at, short-term, midterm, and long-term.
Okay.
And so when you do this with newfound money and you just follow it from paying off debts, new raise, bonuses, tax returns, inheritance, those are all the times that we get newfound money. And you just allocate a third, 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 and you do it, and you have to do it on autopilot. What happens in a 2 to 5 year window is you start shifting your financial world to empowerment versus reacting to everything that's coming at you. And then you find yourself actually, you then say you're off track with your retirement planning. Well, then you're actually righting the ship is what you happen over time, because you're just following that system. So what you're doing there is simultaneously you're cleaning up your past while living in the present moment the way you want to, and planning for your future and planting those seeds of what you want to harvest down the road. All while your nervous system doesn't get hijacked. It actually stays open and expansive. And so the light at the top of your lighthouse, your pineal gland, is shining bright. So you can attract more of what it is that you create. More promotions, more bonuses, more pay raises. And it works like a charm. It's very simple, but it totally puts people in a place of empowerment.
And so what makes this work is the fact that it's already like a patterned expense. Using let's use the car payment as an example, because that happened to me very recently.
Right.
Car payment, no more. That's great.
Right.
So the reason behind this working in this way is because it doesn't hijack your nervous system, is what you're saying?
Right.
Because you're already accustomed to spending that, $600.
It's already going out the door.
Right.
Now, with car payments, I will say one of the other things that I do with car payments is because you are going to buy another car.
Sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're used to making the payment, you just might want to make that car payment straight to a savings account that says car fund. Have that $600 a month go straight into a car fund. Because then let's just say you're 600, you're talking that's a little over, that's about $7,200 a year. In 3 years, you'll have over 20 grand to purchase a new car with cash.
Right.
And a lot of times people are like, well, but I kind of want the $45,000 car, not the $20,000 car. Okay. So now you have a $300 car payment, not a $600. So you can have that $300 keep going in there while you have $300 to a car payment for a little while. You eventually become your own bank and fully empowered, and you don't have to worry about the banking system. And then you get to negotiate a much better price on your car because you walk in with cash.
That's crazy.
It's simple
great
solution.
No, but that sure, it's simple. It ain't easy, But
that's why you have to put on autopilot so that your emotions don't get jammed up. People are like, well, I like to control it and I manually put there. I've yet to meet a human being that did it manually and actually did it every single month, because you find reasons not to do it.
Sure.
And you're trying to control it. That's one of your stress mechanisms. Put it on autopilot, just like your paycheck is depositing into your checking account. You have to put it on autopilot. Otherwise, you're not going to position yourself well for success.
Right. You're paying attention to it and then trying to, I want to hold on to that. And that's
right.
That's great. I think that what you're saying, especially, and I'll transition into retirement as well. When you have that going on in a retirement fund, it's things that you don't even see. Right. So if you don't see it, you don't miss it, you don't lose it.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So then let's talk about retirement. And let's talk about it in one of the things that we have, we discuss on the show is small business owners and things like that, which I do believe are the backbone of our economy.
There is no doubt.
So a lot of small business owners for a number of years may not, and this is, I'm sure you're going to say, well, that's an excuse, may not feel that they're capable of contributing to their financial future as in retirement because of their business or their expenses or expansion. What do you say to people that continue to have excuses like that I just gave you when you meet them in order to help turn them around?
Well, one of the things is this is why the first step in my process is picturing the life that you want to create, because that's your compelling reason for change. So if you want something more than your current reality, then you're actually more likely to then do the steps to get there versus, because if you give me an excuse and I don't understand like what you're trying to create, but I don't understand. So if I don't understand that basis, which I think sometimes people don't understand it themselves, let alone being able to articulate to another person. Right. So I sit there and I say, well, if they're really stuck, many business owners put their blood, sweat, and the tears into their business. And the problem is that so many of them don't build their personal net worth at the same time. And so the biggest thing that I do for business owners is I'm like, okay, how are we going to, so first of all, a lot of business owners don't give themselves pay raises, just like their employees. So that's one of the first things that I fix within the firms is that I say, okay, you're giving employees a raise. And I remember I did this is probably 20 years ago now, but I was like, you know what? If I'm going to give an employee a pay raise, I too am going to have a pay raise. And because I didn't want, because I'm a people pleaser and a giver and a fix-it person, early on, I found myself like to keep employees, I kept giving them what they wanted because I didn't want to lose them.
Right.
Because they were helping me build the company. But then I started realizing going, oh, I need to love myself and take care of myself and take care of my employees. It's not an either or, it's an and, right?
Right.
So then, just like I was talking about newfound money, then when I would get those pay raises, I would be very intentional what I did with those pay raises. So I set up my short-term, mid-term, long-term. I would have it funnel into my buckets on a regular basis. And so what we have to do as business owners is, well, what is it that you're trying to create? So for example, I can either build my business and I can sell it off, or I can build my business and then turn it around and have be employee stock and then pass it to employees that work there and they own stock over time. And I decided to do the latter. I mean, I could turn around and sell my business for over $10 million today if I wanted to. You're like, why don't you just do that and stop working? I'm like, well, when you're in alignment with your heart and your soul and you're doing what you love to do, it doesn't feel like a job.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I turn around and I'm now setting up a plan to where part of people's employment packages and their comp packages is getting shares of stock of the company. So what that's doing for me is that it's saying, oh, so if they're getting shares of company, but then I'm giving up shares for cash, and then that cash is building my retirement plan.
Gotcha.
right?
Hmm.
Now, a lot of people, when they work for other companies, they think of their stock. Employees do this all the time, and I'm always correcting it. They think of their stock as being part of their comp structure, which it is, but it's not meant to pay for your lifestyle. It's meant to build your wealth.
Hmm.
So, like, I have a client that worked for ESPN, and every time the stock would vest, they'd sell the shares and then they'd go on big vacations.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, but the problem is now you're living a lifestyle of $500,000 a year. And there's no way, if you're using all the stock to live today, that you are going to be living in retirement on $500,000 a year. Because
Right.
if you want to continue to keep growing your lifestyle, you have to build your wealth the same time your income's going up. And I'm not saying it has to be, it goes to both cylinders. You have to do it today and for tomorrow, so you never have to contract and shrink,
Right. Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just like tending to both at the same time, not this
Right.
one and that one and this.
Right.
They're just both
It's
coming up
today and
together.
tomorrow, right? So it's about,
Right.
remember, go back to cleaning up your financial past, paying off your debts while
Right.
living in the present moment and planting all the seeds for what I want to create tomorrow. That's the approach that will continue to keep you empowered and expanded with your money.
Okay. So I have a question then for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use this example. So you had mentioned that Americans are carrying more debt and more weight. I guess probably no coincidence there, but
No, because we work things out or we act it out emotionally
right.
through our money, through our health, or through our relationships. So
Right.
that's why it isn't a coincidence that it's our weight as well as our debt.
Yeah. It's
And high
unhealthy,
divorce rates.
unhealthy. Oh, wow. Okay.
That's where the relationship piece comes in.
Yeah. No, that makes sense because money is a big stressor for a lot of people in relationships, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's go to this, and I'll throw out this scenario. Let's say that small business owner, and you go, okay, I want to get started, but I've not started. And how do I start a retirement plan? And what would that retirement plan be? As let's say that I'm a solopreneur
Mm-hmm.
and it's just me. What would you recommend doing as far as getting something started?
Well, so retirement plans are all IRS regulated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, meaning depending on your income levels and depending on your cash flows and depending on your expenses in the business, that all depends on what's the appropriate plan.
Gotcha.
Now, the
Okay.
plans that are available out there, which may not be right for any one individual listening to this, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody's situation is different, and you should talk to your tax advisor as well as your financial planner. And if you need help, you by all means, you can email us at info@jmcwealth.com. We'd be happy to help people specifically on their journey, but you can do options available. And again, this depends on who you are and where you're at.
Sure.
You have deductible IRAs, there's Roth IRAs, there's non-deductible IRAs.
Okay.
So depending on your income levels, depends on what's appropriate or what are you able to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then as you start, if you have more than $8,000 to invest, because those are all for, less than $8,000 or less, you can do those.
Okay.
Of what you want to deposit into something. Then you have SEP IRAs that allow you to put up to 25% of your net income of your business.
Okay.
So if your income is 100, your expenses are 25,000, your net income 75,000, multiply that 75,000 by 0.25%. That's the max that the IRS will allow you to deposit into that. And again, you'd have to seek the advice of your tax advisor, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But that's where a lot of times I start people out, because you can put those in place and pay as little as $25 a year for that administration on that. It's very inexpensive to
Wow,
open
okay.
those up from a custodian fee. Then depending on your business, you might do a simple IRA. Simple IRAs, usually I would say those are for people who have employees, or they have a spouse that they also want to deposit, that do some work inside the business.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then it goes up from there. You can do solo 401ks, and you can do 401ks, and then you can do cash balance pension plans if your business is bigger, and you can do profit sharing plans. So I would say that's the typical, it just depends on how many employees you have, what's your income levels.
Right.
But
a lot of factors go into
yeah,
that.
lots of factors. And you could also, if anyone wants to email info@JMC Wealth, we have a retirement plan matrix that we give out that shows all that in that detail. So happy to email that to anyone watching if they want to get some clarity on that.
And that's a wonderful tool, especially if you're not sure where to start. Or let's just say that you might be embarrassed. Well, I'm 50 plus years old and I haven't really even started.
Right.
I think you told me before that if you're still breathing, it's not too late. keep if you still are with us, it's not too late to start. So,
well, here's the thing: you only have your current reality. You have nothing but your current reality. Yeah. So you can't do anything except work from where you're at. I mean, I just worked with a client the other day who had that whole story of, we haven't done it. We're big spenders. We paid off hundreds of thousands of debt. Don't have the debt now. We've been, for the last 18 months, chucking money into just a savings account. We're now in our late 40s, early 50s, not really sure what to do. We've rented our whole lives. We haven't owned anything. So there's all that shame and guilt and everything that goes along with that. But their gift is, so much of this planning has to do with what your spend is every month.
Right.
And when I walked things through with them, after I had them pull their Social Security statements, they were able to live the lifestyle that they were living based on what their Social Security will kick in one day. And then we talked about stabilizing their housing costs by actually purchasing property. Okay. So that their rent payments weren't going up throughout retirement. That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you're right.
And then any of the money that they had in 401ks, which wasn't much, less than $100,000, and what they're going to do for the next 10 to 15 years of working will just be their protection with inflation. Like it completely can work out for them because they're not enormous spenders. They spend about $4,500 a month.
Huh.
So
that's good.
There's always a way. You just have to make empowered choices of what you want to do and how you want to live.
So, okay. This might be a tough one to answer. It actually probably won't be for you. I know it won't be, but this is difficult for some people. Let's say, again, we're in that, I want to start investing in my retirement. But somebody, let's say that they have credit card debt. And I'll use a figure. Let's say it's $15,000 in credit card debt. What would be your recommendation for them to do as it relates to starting? Should they pay off their credit card debt first and then start?
I get that question all the time. And here's my answer. If you put all of your financial, because I believe money is energy, because everything in the world is energy.
Right.
If you put all your financial energy to paying off more debt, what do you think you're only going to create?
More debt.
Exactly. So This reiterates my point why you have to clean up your past while living in the present moment and planning for the future all at the same time.
Love that.
Because we want you to become your own bank. So get those debts at a decent rate of interest. You can go to creditcards.com and get it transferred to a lower interest rate if you have a high interest rate on it. Get that payment on autopilot. When you get newfound money, take a third of it, chunk it down. But most people with credit card debt don't have 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a savings account.
Right.
So when I have a client that builds the savings account while they're taking their third and paying off their debt, once it builds up to that 3 months, I tell them take 1 month and chunk down more debt. Build it back up 1 month.
Yeah.
Because what you've done is you've interrupted your debt cycle, because if an emergency happens, you have a savings account you can now depend on.
And not a credit card.
And not a credit card.
Wow. Okay.
And then as that savings account builds up, you can take, max I would ever take is half of it out and pay it off. But you don't take half until you're over at least 1 to 2 months of expenses in there. So if your expenses are $4,500, $9,000,
right,
then you can take $4,500 and then chunk off another $4,500 of debt. What happens in that process is you're actually just transitioning to a place of financial empowerment.
Gotcha.
And you're becoming your own bank, which feels great to everybody.
Well, hell yeah. And I think that that's very... Okay, so you talk about emergencies, and let's say that you're a small business owner and you're a solopreneur or whatever. There always seems to be an emergency, you know? And I know that it's one of those things that somebody, well, you know, then I had this come up and then I had this come up and then I had this come. And what they're doing is exactly what you're talking about with the debt, because they expect that.
Right.
So
well,
it's a manifestation
remember,
of that.
Your thoughts, your words, and your feelings create your reality.
Right.
So if you always think the sky is falling, guess what? The sky's always going to fall. Because that's what you talk about all the time. Like if you think that that's going to happen, it will. You are right.
Wow.
So you have to start to train yourself to have a different response. Like if you're naturally a person who's negative, well, that's why negative things are happening to you, because that is the signal from your lighthouse, your pineal gland, that you're putting out there. And so that's all you're manifesting and attracting.
Damn straight. Wow. Wow.
Deep.
Hell yes, it is. God. You know, and I apologize, but I was taking notes on some of this stuff because it's very important, because I figure if I'm asking it, it's got to be going through somebody else's mind, because
there's no doubt.
Yeah,
It's the reason I understand this patterning. It goes through a lot of people.
Right. I'm sure there's not many new questions or situations you hear of with all your experience these days. Yeah.
No, it's just, it falls in 10, 15 categories, and there's little tweaks about it, but it's usually the same patterns, and it all has to do with your emotions and how you perceive it and how you react to it or respond to it.
So your silver bullet for this whole financial world that we're in, what is that? What would be that one nugget that you would share with us?
You have to love yourself enough to put yourself first. Even in front of your kids. I have so many parents that are like, well, I have to pay for my kids' college education. I'm like, says who? I said, they'll lend you money for your kids' education, but they're not going to lend you money to retire.
You're right.
All you're doing is letting all that shame, blame, guilt, and judgment come up, that if you don't do that, it's usually everybody's desire to do more than what the prior generation did.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, we live in a more complicated world where my grandparents didn't have credit cards until they were closer to retirement. They had cash. People are like, why would you hold cash? I might lose it. Like, seriously, the stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
But I can tell you this. You go shopping for a couch and you have $1,000 in your wallet. I guarantee you're going to find the $600 couch, not the $1,000 couch. But when you have a credit card, you're buying a $1,500 couch.
That's right. Because you don't see it. It's like, let's do it.
It's like there's no connection to the slide.
Yeah, disassociation, that's for sure.
And then you have a spending hangover.
I hate spending hangovers. They're the worst.
Everybody does.
They're the worst. Forget it.
Right.
Forget it.
Well, that's why when I go back to the basics with people, I'm like, let's just decide what it is that you want to spend. Like, let's say for the holidays, as an example.
Right.
I celebrate Christmas. I have 42 nieces and nephews.
Whoa.
Because there's 12 kids.
Right. Yeah.
You can spend some money at Christmas with that many. So I spend about $3,000 every Christmas, but I have $300 a month that goes into a savings account that's called a Christmas fund. You know how much more fun it is to spend for Christmas when you have the cash in the bank to do it than sliding the credit card and getting the bill in January going, oh shit.
Hell yeah.
It's a lot more fun because you're moving from a place of defense to a place of offense. Same thing is with house maintenance. If you were to replace all the appliances, washer, dryer, dishwasher, all of them, refrigerator, all of it, stove, windows, hot water tanks, furnace, air conditioner, and your roof. All those things, big house maintenance. Over a 20-year period of time, if you put $300 a month into a savings account that's called house maintenance, and you don't use it for house remodeling, you just use it for house maintenance, you will have cash for everything. The fridge, the washer, the dryer, the roof, the windows over 20 years.
Wow.
So every client I have usually don't have $300 a month in open cash flow when I meet them. But every time they get a pay raise, I say, okay, we need to open up that house maintenance fund and let's put your spending one in the middle. A portion of that has to go to house maintenance, which isn't as fun as vacation.
Sure. Yeah, right. Right.
But so that's why we hit vacation and house maintenance, because I want that number to get up to that $300 a month. So again, you can go to playing more financial offense than playing financial defense. Hell of a lot more fun.
Absolutely. I love that approach. That's a whole, and I see it as an aggressive mindset. Like you want somebody to take control, you want to take control of a situation. That's how you take control of a situation. Right there.
Right.
Then you're not a victim. You are the person who's leading the band on that. So that's
you're
good stuff.
fully financially empowered because you're playing offense. You're not a defense. You're not victim to the system.
Yeah. You're the best. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is good stuff. I could keep asking questions, but you're probably okay. 587th time I've been asked that question.
It's perfect.
No, I love it though, and I've got to tell you that last time I had asked if you had anything going on, and you have a new session that's coming up here pretty soon that I would recommend everybody sign up for. And we'll have, again, a link in the show notes for that so everybody can get that. But can you tell us?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every 8 weeks, I do a free workshop, which then leads to it's group coaching. Like come with your questions. I have themes on every workshop, but then if you guys want to dig down deeper, then we do another call the following week for $30. And then if you want to join me for a 6-week online course with me being live with you in group coaching twice a week, we do that every 8 weeks. I run this process because I really want to help people to shift to be more in a place of financial empowerment. And how do I help more people? Well, I found that the group basis to get people started. And if they need more individual help, they can, send us an email at info@jmcwealth.com. But you can sign up for the workshop and everything at juliemurphy.com. And that's where, because I have 2 companies. One is where the books and the workshops and the seminars all work through. And the other one is where we actually manage people's money. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I did sign up for your next workshop, so I'm excited about that. I really am. So since this is part 2, you might be thinking, we're not going to talk about music, but we are. It'll be brief, but we're going to talk about music a little bit. So is anyone can tell you that's at least listened to the podcast one time before? This is a section when I ask some musical questions, and it's really going to be one musical question. And this is pillar 4 of our show. And as I mentioned regularly, music is the tie that binds. And I believe everyone has a soundtrack to their life. Now, this is where it's going to be a little different, because that soundtrack is going to be financially motivated, and we're gonna think about songs that have money in the lyrics, or about money. And I know I mentioned one to you before that is one of my favorites, but I'm going to wait and give that one after you give yours.
It's funny. There are multiple songs that come. So my favorite one, it's funny when you're talking, all I could hear was money, 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 money.
That's a great
money. Money, 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 money. Money.
I love that one. That's a good one. I'll put that one on there.
Yeah. That's the one that was popping in as you were saying. And then I've got money, lots and lots of money.
Yeah,
that's the one you and I were talking about. Yep.
I want money, lots and lots of money, baby. I want the pie in the sky. I want money. Yeah, that's a good one. I want to be rich. Yeah. Who doesn't want to be rich? Although right? I'm sure it has its trappings as well. But
so can we talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah.
So I categorize people as debtors, or poor, debtors, dreamers, accumulators. And all 4 of those feel like once I'm rich and I get all the money, then everything's going to be solved. And then I have this category called rich but empty, because everyone thinks once they get all the money that life's just going to be great. And I will tell you, then when people get all that money, when you don't align with your soul and you don't align with self, you get there and you're going, all that time, all that energy, and I don't feel any more whole in my inside. And the reason that happens is because you've done it for reasons outside of yourself, not because you've aligned with yourself. And so this is what I talk about in my 3rd book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Money, that it's about embodiment of what I call real wealth. And it's not rich but empty. Since the topic was rich, I had to share that.
That is powerful, though, because I think
right?
You're 100% right. If I just won the lottery, I would be, all of those.
Oh, everybody says that, right?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, when it gets up to 500 million, who doesn't think, well, but what would I do with that?
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd buy a pizza place.
That's why most lottery winners lose their money within 3 to 5 years, because they haven't built the muscles on how to hold money in abundance. Because their wiring is still scarcity, so their behaviors are scarcity, and the money's going out all these leaky containers out the back door.
I don't have that. To get rid of it. Yeah. Well, there is that. And you talked about wealth accumulators and versus what were there were the 2. You can accumulate money. Oh, wow. Look at, woo. I don't know if you saw the balloons go. Celebration. But you talked about money, like getting from like a salary, accumulating that money, but not accumulating wealth.
Right. Income affluence versus asset affluence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you can generate income and you've become to live a lifestyle, but that's totally different than being asset affluent. Because asset affluent is when you can hold money in abundance. So one of the exercises I give people all the time to hold money in abundance is take $100 bill, put in your wallet. I guarantee you, Benjamin Franklin's going to start talking to you. And my assignment to you is, do not spend that $100 bill under any circumstance. And I'm telling you, people always say, Well, I just had to. Nope. You have to get through the emotions because there's emotions that are coming up that you have to work through to be able to keep it in your pocket. Otherwise, that is the first step to teaching yourself how to be asset affluent, particularly if you're a spender or if you have a lot of debt.
Yeah. No,
that's a big
good
one.
That's a good one. So money. I know there's a song. Pink Floyd has a song, "Money." It's a drag.
I wanna be rich. Sorry, I just
still
thought of that
mine.
one.
I know. No, that's the one. I want money. That's my go-to. Take the money and run.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. Little story
Take your
about
money and
Billy
run.
Joe. Yeah, Steve Miller.
Woo, woo.
Oh, yeah, I like that one. What else? There's, oh my gosh, there are so many that are out there. I know Eddie Money's got one too. And I'm drawing a
Pet
blank
Shop
right
Boy.
now.
I just Googled it. Pet Shop Boys. Let's make lots of money.
Ooh.
Oh,
Ooh, there you go.
One.
I don't either, but we can throw it on there for sure.
Right? Money Talks by AC/DC.
Oh, yeah, I know that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Gold Digger by Kanye West.
Do you know that one? That's Jamie Foxx is in that one too. That's a great song. That's a great song. I like that one.
ABBA. Money, Money, Money.
Okay.
They ran that one too, huh? That's interesting. Seems to be a lot of rap songs around money.
Yeah. And bitches.
Dire Straits, Money for Nothing.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I know. We got some good ones coming up, huh?
Yeah, that's a really good one.
I just thought I'd do a quick Google. I'm like,
I like that.
Right?
That's wonderful.
Gwen Stefani, Rich Girl.
Oh, speaking of rich girl, then you also have Hall & Oates, right?
Oh, she's a rich girl, and she's gone too far, and you know it don't matter anyway. You can rely on your old man's money.
You can rely on your old man's money. She's a rich girl. Yeah. Oh, she's a
that's
rich
great.
Girl. Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Moni. Yeah, that doesn't. That's it.
Money.
Yeah. Moolah,
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, no, probably not. There's this. It's wonderful that there are songs about being. Well, I would imagine blues songs. Can't rub 2 cents to 2 nickels together. They're talking about.
Oh, sure.
That's a topic of being po. I'm tired.
There's a lot about that.
Tired. Yeah.
Right? There's a ton of them around that.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just looking.
A lot of songs about not having money.
Not a lot of songs about money, but there's a lot of information here about songs that were the most financially successful.
Ooh.
You know what was number 1?
Mm-mm.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Out of here. I was thinking like Michael Jackson or something like that. Beat It.
Number 2 is Stand By Me. Stand By Me.
That's a good one.
Right? That's so funny.
Stand
a lot
by
of
me.
them. Yeah.
Movies
Yesterday
too.
by the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. Right?
Yeah. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly. Yes, that's a good one. I love that. Well, I'll tell you what. I will reach out to you. I was going to shoot you an email, and if you had any more that you wanted to add on, I will definitely add it onto the song list. I think it's fantastic. And as far as that's concerned, let's go ahead and I want you to have an opportunity to blast out what you've got going on, what you're excited about in the upcoming weeks.
Absolutely. By all means, to me, financial realities can be a little bit daunting when you're looking at what it is that you've created thus far. And so it's always important to surround yourself with a community. So by all means, come join us at juliemurphy.com, because I do free things all the time for people to join. I have deeper dives, however deep you want to go down your financial rabbit hole. And I have different layers and different levels that you can plug into. I have people that show up every 8 weeks to my $30 group coaching thing. Okay, great. That's how they're getting what they need. I have some people that continuously do my accelerated coaching where we meet every Tuesday at 11 a.m. And it's group coaching that we also bring in some woo-woo stuff with some energy work to help people to align with their financial abundance. And and by all means, I have a whole team of financial planners that if you want to do a deep dive one-on-one with myself or one of my team members, we do that at jmcwealth.com. So wherever your reality is, we have something to help you along your journey, because everybody matters. And there's a place for you no matter what, if you want to get a little bit more in line with yourself.
Oh, you are awesome. Thank you so much again for sharing with us today.
Thanks,
it's wonderful
Jim.
to have you. Well, it's just about time to cue the music for today's episode, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Drop the Needle podcast to stay up to date on our latest episodes. I would also like to take a moment to say thank you for everyone again for tuning in today. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Drop the Needle podcast. And of course, thank you once again to Julie for being our special guest in part 2 of this. Fantastic. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
All right, my Drop the Needle posse, like Billy Joel says, from the highs to the lows to the end of the show, this is the end of our show. Until next time, this is Jim Alstott wishing you infinite health and happiness and the perfect playlist for your life. Thank you again for being the best part of us. Catch you next time.